Okay, so this is just a really quick review of what tenths and hundredths and thousandths are. So remember that 1/10, that can be represented many different ways, either by a fraction, decimal, or picture. So as a fraction, 1/10 is 1 over 10. That's 1 out of 10 parts. As a decimal, 0.1, the 1 is in the first place value spot to the right of the decimal. That's the tenths column. And as a picture, 1 out of 10 equal parts is shaded in here. If we're looking at hundredths, again, as a fraction, decimal, and picture, 1/100th as a fraction is 1 over 100. As a decimal, it's 0.01. So this 0 here is very important. If we didn't have that 0, then it would just be 0.1, and that would say 1/10. So if it's 1/100th, we need the 1 in the hundredths spot, and that's the second spot to the right of the decimal. So if my decimal is here, I would count 1, 2, put my 1 in, but I also need a 0 here just to show that it's in the second spot over. And for as a picture, we would shade in 1 out of 100 equal parts. And if it was a different fraction, say it was 5/100ths, then it would be 5 over 100, 0.05, and 5 of these to be shaded in. If it was something like 23/100ths, then again 23 over 100. But this is where it gets a bit trickier with the decimal. You don't want to go 2 spots to the right of the decimal and then write 23, so I would not want 0.023. I want the decimal to end in the hundredths column. So if I want it to end here, then my 2 has to be here, and my 3 has to be here. So 0.23 would say 23/100ths. That's a pretty common mistake. And then I would have 23 out of these 100 parts shaded in. And lastly, we have thousandths. So if I have 1/1000th, that's 1 over 1,000, or 0.001. Now we're 3 spots to the right of the decimal. Remember, this first spot is tenths, second spot is hundredths, and the third spot is thousandths. So if it's a 1/1000th, then we put a 1 in the thousandth place value. As a picture, that would be 1 part out of 1,000 shaded in. So you can really see that how 1,000th is a very small portion of the whole. If it was, say, 15/1000ths, so it would have 15 over 1,000, and again, I would need the decimal to end in the thousandth place value. So I wouldn't want to go 0.0015. I would want 0.015. So I want the decimal to end here in the thousandth place value. That would then say 15 thousandths, and there'd be 15 out of 1,000 squares shaded in. So the key is whatever's on the denominator, whatever is here, if it's 1,000, 100th, a tenth, you want the numerator, that number, to end at that place value. So if the numerator says 23 and it says 1,000 underneath, I want the 23 to end at the thousandth place value spot.